Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, the nation's largest retailer turns to Fort Wayne for a one-of-a-kind plant. Indiana Fiber Network is underway with a multi-million-dollar project. The Vera Bradley Foundation boosts its battle against breast cancer. UIndy takes a new approach to creating leaders. A Fort Wayne center earns a long-awaited Olympic-level designation. And our panel of insiders gives perspective on the top stories of the week. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. The largest retailer in the country hosted a grand opening in Fort Wayne last week for its first milk processing plant in North America. Walmart says the facility, which involves more than 300 new jobs, is a result of Indiana's dairy strategy. Indiana State Department of Agriculture Director Bruce Kettler joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to talk about the impact.
This was a big announcement in Fort Wayne, Northeast Indiana this week. Walmart getting into the milk processing, the food processing business, if you will, in the United States for the first time. How big is this project?
It's big, Gary. And as you mentioned, since this is their first foray into food processing as a company, I think it says a lot about Indiana that they chose to come here and put this plant here. And it's big. The jobs you mentioned, of course, very important. But being able to support local dairy farmers and being able to source that milk close to the plant is really important to them as well.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that because a big part of this story is a lot of Hoosier farmers, dairy farmers, are going to get business. They're going to be supporting this plant.
They are. Walmart's objective is to source half of the milk that feeds into this plant eventually from Indiana dairy farms. They're going to get some from Michigan, some from Ohio, but their objective is to make sure that at least half of it comes from Indiana. So that's good for our Indiana dairy farmers as well. You touched on this a second ago, but why Indiana, and what does it say that Walmart, as they get into this business, chose Indiana for this plant? Well, I think first and foremost, Walmart, like any company that's going to be producing food products, they want high quality. And they know that in order to get high quality milk, they can get that here in the state of Indiana. So besides having the amount of milk that they need to make sure the plant's running efficiently, they want to make sure they've got a good source of high quality milk, and they know that our dairy farmers in Indiana can produce that quality.
Well, let's talk about the dairy industry. A lot of people may not know that Indiana already has a fairly significant dairy industry. As you look, I think 14th in milk production, second in ice cream production, right? In the entire country. So it's substantial already.
It is, and this plant just adds to the number of facilities that we have. We've got about 20 processing plants in the state of Indiana for all kinds of dairy products. So whether it's fluid milk, cheese, you mentioned ice cream, of course, is big. This just adds to that. And again, I think Walmart saw the business climate in Indiana, but they also know and understand that we're able to do these things very well. We had a strategy that the State Department of Agriculture embarked on for dairy about 3 years ago, and we're seeing the fruits of that strategy now, because we were letting about 4 million pounds of milk a day go outside of the borders of Indiana. Now with this facility and with other efforts to bring more processing to Indiana, we're going to stem that tide. And in fact, I think we can make that actually 4 million pounds coming into the borders of the state of Indiana eventually.
Well, that's amazing. So again, there is a dairy strategy, part of the overall ag strategy. Yeah. Talk about that, specifically dairy, and then how that fits into the overall ag strategy.
Yeah, so again, when we looked at the dairy industry, we knew we needed to get more processing, and that's coming to fruition. We're looking to bring more cheese plants and other processing facilities online here in the next year or so, and we continue to reach out to those companies and let them know what we have here. But it does fit into the broader strategy that we have for our industry. That was implemented just a little over a year ago. We're looking to bring in the strategic initiatives. There's about 7 of those in the strategic plan, and we want to make sure we get all of our partners engaged in those initiatives and telling us what we need to do. We, of course, will adjust as we need to when necessary.
And as we wrap up, I only have about 30 seconds left, but you're undertaking a rural economic development strategy, if you will.
Right.
That's really going to identify where the assets are, where to maybe focus efforts going
Yeah,
forward.
but this fall we'll have gathered a lot of information to help identify our agriculture assets. Where are they located in the state? What are the assets? And the idea is to get local and regional economic development teams thinking about what those assets are and what business do we want to bring to those areas so that we can add value to Indiana ag products in those locations.
All right, Bruce Kettler is the director of the Indiana State Department of Agriculture. Lots going on in the ag world, dairy and beyond. Bruce, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Still to come, a developer becomes a post-recession success story and a new weapon in the battle against breast cancer. But first, Indianapolis-based Indiana Fiber Network says it's underway with a multi-million-dollar network upgrade throughout the state. The fiber optic provider says the project will increase capacity and boost reliability. CEO Jim Turner came in studio to update the multi-year effort.
First of all, let's talk about the Indiana Fiber Network.
Sure.
Started in 2002 and has really evolved into a major operation. Talk about the roots of IFN.
Sure. IFN is actually a great Hoosier success story. We started out about 16 years ago as a way to connect 20 rural telephone companies here in the state of Indiana to a high-speed network. Since that time, we've grown very significantly, well past our original mission. And today, we provide large commercial businesses, schools, large healthcare providers with broadband connectivity. And in addition to that, we provide wholesale telecommunications services to probably every major telecom provider in the state of Indiana.
Yeah. Internet connectivity, high-speed internet, broadband, so important in particular for business anywhere you go.
Yes.
But the challenges in rural areas of the country, rural areas of Indiana, it's especially keen.
It is, and there continues to be a little bit of a have-not situation. I think we've done a good job over the last decade in starting to get broadband out to these communities, but there is certainly a lot more work to do in that regard, and that's part of our mission as well.
Let's talk about you are investing. It's a very capital-intensive business, and you're making some big investment around the state. You just announced plans not long ago for a major investment in Whitley County along the US 30 corridor, the business corridor there. Talk about that investment and how that plays into a larger statewide investment.
Yeah, we really have two primary things we're focusing on with our capital investment, and over the next 5 years, we could probably spend upwards of $100 million invested in the state. And it's really on two things. One is expanding our network, and Whitley County, the Whitley County investment is an example of that, where we're trying to get out along the US 30 corridor and reach as many businesses along that corridor and cell towers, for example, along that corridor as we possibly can. The second thing is to really upgrade the network. As the network continues to grow, as the demand on the network continues to grow, we need more bandwidth. And if you think about it as going from a 2-lane highway to an 88-lane highway, that's really what the upgrade investment is doing, is allowing to get more cars onto that road.
The emphasis, the importance of broadband as you look at economic development and the ability of Indiana to grow,
yes.
Whether it's rural or wherever it is, this has got to be tied in large part to those efforts.
That's exactly right. If you think about it, Indiana has always been extraordinarily competitive in what might be the three legacy economies: farming, manufacturing, transportation, logistics. We're really moving to a data economy. When you look at what's going on out there with some of the largest providers of different services in the world, the largest rental car company owns no cars. That's Uber. What does it own? It owns data. And so the ability to deliver that, we're providing the highway for that high-speed data to travel. Then you think about moving into a world in which, for example, we have autonomous vehicles, and you think about the broadband, the bandwidth needs that will be necessary to make that successful. It's extraordinary, and it gives me great optimism about both the growth of our state, but also our own company's ability to continue to grow.
The Indiana Fiber Network. Jim Turner is the CEO, investing tens of millions of dollars in growth around the state. Jim, as always, thanks for being on the program. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Later in the podcast, putting a focus on the most difficult types of breast cancer to treat, and a program aiming to separate leadership from management. But now, for more than 40 years, Loth Group has been developing and constructing buildings and facilities throughout the state. During the recession, some wondered if the struggling developer could survive. CEO Mike Jones joined us to talk about how it did and how it's faring post-economic downturn.
The Loth name has been around for a long time, and I would consider it, for the many of its first years, a traditional developer.
Absolutely,
yeah.
A grocery-anchored developer, with retail, and took many twists and turns. But as I like to say, we're 41 years now in business. We've been very resilient. With downturns and upside along the way.
A lot of companies had to be resilient going through the recession. Loth, no different. He underwent some major changes and came out of the recession as a more diversified company. Talk about that, kind of the thought process in creating this new company, if you will.
Sure. Well, I'm certainly not doing it by myself. One of the most important parts was coming out of the recession was making sure we retained the best and brightest that we had in the industry, but with Loth, and we were able to do that and then continue to grow the people. Along with that, it was really being diversified by product type, office, industrial, retail, healthcare, which we had done traditionally. We added multi-purpose athletic facilities. We're under our second or third there and looking at several other new announcements, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We moved into the multifamily business, so we've acquired about 1,000 units that we own and manage. We started a company called Integrated Facility Services. So that's a facilities maintenance company, a technical company that provides services to our clients that own buildings and supplements our property management company, but allows us to stay in front of our client, add value throughout the life of their asset.
We'll talk about a number of projects. Some recently completed Braden Business Systems up in Fishers, Hancock Regional Health, Fresh Time Farmers Markets, and you're the preferred developer, right?
We are the preferred developer. We just completed our 13th and 14th facility in Evansville and Muncie, and I will tell you, I don't know if it's in light of Marsh or not, but they've done really well, double-digit sales year over year.
Yeah. Some of the projects you have underway, the Agora in Carmel, I think you referred to Finch Creek, the field house in Noblesville,
yes,
which is quite a development on the sports side.
About 130,000 square feet. We're working in conjunction with Klipsch Card Athletic Facilities. They're our owner and operator. We're partners with them in delivering that facility, but we delivered the Pacers athletic facility at Grand Park, which was about 100,000 square feet a couple of years ago. It's been an absolute hit with the athletes, with Nike, et cetera. So this facility is a little different. It'll have 5 courts, hard courts in it, about 75,000 square feet of turf for pickleball, soccer, softball, baseball, you name it, anything you can do on turf. About 15,000 square feet of sports performance and PT services connected to there. And we're also looking at 8 outdoor fields as the next phase of the project.
Only have about 20 seconds, but going forward, Mike, as you look at what's going to really drive growth, what do you see out there in the market?
Well, there's lots of capital in the market, and it's definitely pushing it. We're getting ready to break ground on a 700,000 square foot industrial facility. We're going to continue to be diversified and leverage our associates in-house to be successful.
All right. Mike Jones is the CEO at Loth, a company with a lot going on. Mike, thanks for being here. We look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks much, Gary.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, UIndy takes a new approach to creating leaders, and a Fort Wayne facility secures an Olympic-level designation. But first, the Vera Bradley Foundation is again boosting breast cancer research, this time with a research center focused on difficult-to-treat types of the disease. The foundation has committed more than $37 million to the school. IU Simon Cancer Center Director Pat Lehrer joined Barb Lewis in the Business of Health.
So let's talk about this new center. What will it really mean in terms of what you do now for women with breast cancer?
Yeah, for over 30 years, the IU Simon Cancer Center has been involved in breast cancer research, and we've set the stage in terms of the standards of care for the adjuvant therapy of breast cancer. We have the Komen tissue bank that has over 5,000 specimens here. And the care of patients is very important. But if we're going to make a difference for the last 25% of patients who die from breast cancer, 1 out of every 4 women, we've got to have research. And what this fund does, it'll allow us to recruit some of the best and brightest talent from around the country, around the globe, to work with us as a team to make a difference in this disease.
Okay. And the center itself, is this a new building that's going to be constructed, or is this within the building that you already have?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a physical structure. We do have space that's carved out for the Vera Bradley Laboratory laboratories. But we expect that researchers actually will be placed in various places around the campus to make sure that they're with the people they need. But there is space dedicated for these researchers.
Okay, and so let's talk about that research then. What's kind of the goal here? What really needs to be done, and what will you be really focusing on with these hard to treat cancers?
Yes. There are basically two frontiers in breast cancer. One is those patients who have what we call triple negative breast cancer, and these are highly resistant cancers in which the cure rate is much less than patients who have estrogen and progesterone receptor positive tumor. And the other frontier is in the prevention of this disease. This is one of the most common cancers in the world, and if we can prevent this and keep patients from having to undergo surgery and radiation therapy, this would be great. So our focus really is on the triple-negative breast cancers to try to find out new avenues for treatment for those patients, and then also the early stage.
Okay, so the Vera Bradley Foundation has been very, very generous, and it's been quite a partnership for decades. Now, I was wondering what that foundation means to the school and also to you personally.
Yeah, it's hard to explain this friendship that has developed. Barbara Backgard and Pat Miller many years ago decided to put breast cancer as a forefront of all their efforts for the foundation of Vera Bradley, and they decided to give it to Indiana University. And so we have been the fortunate benefactors of their support over the years. And nothing makes me happier than to finally have the name of the Vera Bradley Foundation listed here at the center so that we can acknowledge the generosity of not only these two women, but from their entire company and women around the world that have donated money for this cause.
Okay, so next steps then, or other frontiers. So what's the next step in this process?
Well, in this process, the next step is that we're basically looking for the director of this center. So we're looking for one of the outstanding senior scientists that can help lead this effort here. But we are going to continue to do the work in the laboratories and in the clinics to help patients along the way there. So this will be an opportunity actually to put a spotlight on this, making this the premier breast cancer center in the country. Okay,
can we talk a little bit about, because we talk about breast cancer a lot, it is heavily funded. There are a lot of breast cancer centers around. Can you give us kind of a context? Are we making inroads here?
Oh, we clearly are. Okay. So when I was a resident, a medical student, women would come in with large fungating masses and be afraid to come in and see the doctors. The cure rate back in the 1950s and 60s was well below 50%. And today about 75 to 80% of women now are cured with breast cancer. And that is terrific. However, because of the sheer volume of the people that have breast cancer, this 25% still represents one of the leading causes of cancer death in the country. And so we've got to keep focusing on this.
All right. Well, Dr. Pat Lehrer, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, Barb.
And we wish you luck.
I wish you luck.
Thank you. All right. Gary, back to you.
Later in the podcast, a Fort Wayne facility becomes a U.S. Paralympic training site, and our panel of insiders takes on the week's top stories. But now, the University of Indianapolis says its Institute for Post-Industrial Leadership is working to debunk tenets of leadership that have remained virtually unchanged and unchallenged since the 1920s. Co-founder Matthew Chodkowski and Endress & Hauser General Manager for USA Sales, Todd Lucy, discussed the program in our Ion Education segment.
Matt, I want to start with you.
Yes.
Lots of leadership institutes and ways of teaching and learning leadership. This is a different model, different paradigm. How so?
Yes, Gary, it is. It's a different paradigm, not so much a model. Mm-hmm. If it was a model, it would be based on some research that is industrial, and our approach is post-industrial. The industrial model focused only on the leader. It was very leader-centric. Our approach is based on the mutual influence process between leaders and followers who create leadership. It's a social construct.
Yeah, so really multiple levels.
Absolutely.
When you talk about leadership.
We don't work with any specific level in an organization. We work with all levels because the ultimate goal is to really change the culture.
Mm-hmm. Rob Manuel, the president at UIndy, this is part of his initiative, focus on workforce, right?
Yes, Workforce Development Initiative, and we are located in the School of Business at the university. Myself and Terry Schindler, my colleague, are the founders and the directors.
Yeah, very good. Todd Lucy, you are general manager for USA Sales at Endress & Hauser, a growing company here in Indiana. Talk about your participation, your company's participation in the Institute. You've put a number number of people through the program.
Yeah, we really have. We're looking to put 120 people total through the program. We've done 40 people roughly so far. We've done a lot of different leadership programs and a lot of different seminars and things like that. Nothing really seemed to work and really get at the heart of some of the things that we were seeing in our company and in our organization. To become the preeminent company we want to be in the industry, we realize it's about people, and people start with leaders and starts with us as leaders. So we were looking for something that was different and unique in the marketplace. We got in contact with Matt and got connected with Matt, and I will say one thing led to another, and we saw that this was definitely a paradigm shift for what we wanted to do.
And talk about that too, as Matt talked about, it's multi-layered, if you will. So you're not just sending executives from the company through the program.
That's correct, Gary. We're sending not only the top level leaders in the organization, but second, third, fourth level, all the way through, even non-leaders today. So we're looking at people that are potential leaders, people that want to, that even lead projects. So they may not be a manager of people, have people reporting to them, but they lead projects. And just people that want to have an impact in the organization and learn how to develop and get better themselves on a personal level.
Yeah. Matt, talk about the traction the Institute is gaining. You launched in 2016. Inderson Hauser, a number of other companies have gone through the Institute.
Yes, to name two quickly, Caterpillar Remanufacturing in Franklin did a complete program with us where we worked with all their leaders and their managers and supervisors. And then we did a program with NIDEC. It's a company in Shelbyville.
As you look going forward in terms of growth of the Institute, growth of the programming and things, where do you see it? Where do you see it going?
Well, we're hoping to usher in this post-industrial paradigm with organizations in every sector. We have a cadre of trainers that we can work with to help develop and to help deliver the programs. But our real goal is to change cultures of organizations by focusing on the cognitions of leaders, not their behavior, because cognitions drive those behaviors.
Yeah, and again, through various sectors. We've been talking about manufacturers generally, but you see this as having an effect.
We're already talking to other sectors. I can't maybe mention today, but we are talking to other sectors, yes.
Very good. Innovation and leadership happening at UIndy, the Institute for Post-Industrial Leadership. Matt Judkowski, also Todd Lucy from Inderson Hauser. Thanks very much, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Our pleasure, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
Still to come, perspective on the week's top stories from our panel of insiders. But first, Turnstone Center for Children and Adults with Disabilities in Fort Wayne has received a long-anticipated designation. It's now the country's 7th U.S. Paralympic training site. Turnstone CEO Mike Mushet talked about the achievement and what it means for the future with Bill Benner on Inside Indiana Sports.
Before we get into the USOC designation, just give us a brief overview of what Turnstone is and what it means to Northeast Indiana.
Yeah, Turnstone is a unique facility in the United States, and then it provides comprehensive services for people with disabilities under one roof. And we've not been able to find another facility in the United States that's comparable to what we do, but everything from therapy to early learning center to sports and recreation, health and wellness, dementia care programs, all under one roof.
And 3 years ago, with the opening of the Plasman Athletic Center, that really opened the door for this emphasis on athletics and now Paralympics with this designation from the USOC. This is tremendous news for you.
It was huge, the opening of the Plasman Center. Our footprint grew from 65,000 square feet to 190,000 square feet. The Plasman Center has 4 NCAA dimension basketball courts, a 230-meter indoor track, a comprehensive sport and fitness center, warm water therapy pools, and it's just allowed us to grow a lot of our programs.
And athletes coming there are now performing in Paralympics, especially you have a real emphasis on the sport of goalball.
Mm-hmm. Yes, goalball is a Paralympic sport. It's unique, and that was the cornerstone program that we had to have in place to gain a Paralympic training site designation. You have to have a national team sport that trains out of your facility. So we developed a partnership with U.S. Association of Blind Athletes, and we host the men and women's national programs, train out of our facility. The athletes moved from around the country to Fort Wayne, and it's proved proved to be a great partnership with us and U.S. Association of Blind Athletes.
And this is an important national distinction, just the 7th in the country to be a center for Paralympic athletes, and overall with the USOC, just 18 such designations.
Yes, we're the 7th Paralympic training site in the United States, and we're excited. It's a great honor, and the designation brings us into the Olympic family.
And what will it do, just in Fort Wayne alone, what does this designation do in terms of marketing and benefactors and that kind of thing?
It's going to have a lot of benefits. This current year we'll be hosting 3 national championships in different Paralympic sports. In 2019 we'll be hosting our first international event. But by bringing us into the Paralympic family, it opens up the doors to us for Olympic and Paralympic sponsors that we'll be able to approach and try to get them to engage with us at Turnstone. There are staff people at the U.S. Olympic Committee now that are assigned to us that we have go-to people to help us address certain needs and opportunities. The Olympic Committee will be promoting us as a site to host national and regional competitions, not only on the Paralympic side, but also the Olympic side as well.
This is all huge. And we should point out, you have a staff of about 100 serving 3,600 people in Northeast Indiana. That's just fantastic.
Yep, it's, this is our 75th anniversary for existence, and the community has supported us very strongly, and we've grown a lot through the years, obviously.
All right, well, Mike Mushett from Turnstone and Fort Wayne, we appreciate you, again, making the drive from Fort Wayne, and we wish you all the best moving forward as an official Paralympic training site.
And finally this week, our latest group of insiders offers perspective on the week's top stories. This week's panel includes Vox Global Managing Director Mike Marker, UIndy Assistant Professor of Political Science Laura Merrifield Wilson, and Winston Terrell Group Principal Robin Winston.
We start out, and Mike, you're a native of Fort Wayne, correct? So we've got a lot of Fort Wayne news this week. And one of the big stories, Walmart getting into the food processing business, at least in the U.S. for the first time in a big way. Milk processing plant. They selected Indiana, in particular Fort Wayne, for a major new plant, 300 jobs, going to be a major milk processing facility. A story that people up there, and as we talked about in our top story this week, from a lot of aspects say is really a big news.
Yeah, this is significant news up there. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. But when you consider a retailer the size and scope of a Walmart, and they say in North America, this could be the first time we set up a processing facility, and we're going to pop it into Indiana and the Northeast region of Indiana that has a lot of momentum behind it. It's really good for that region. All of the farms, I think it's a 130-mile radius, who are going to be feeding into that and supplying that will be really good. I think we're 14th in the state right now when it comes to dairy production, so it'll be good to see those numbers go up. And I think it's going to be good for the region and good for the statewide economy, too.
Well, you talk statewide economy, too. Agribusiness, ag bioscience is a big push to focus on agriculture as a business, and this fits right into it.
Yeah, and I think what happens, we do a good job overall of seizing these kind of opportunities, but then once we have them, making them work. And so that then others will look at it and say, okay, maybe we'll look to cite something there as well. So I think there's a lot of promise around this.
Robin, as Mike mentioned, Indiana 14th already in milk production, second in the country in ice cream production. So we've already got a big dairy industry, if you will, in the state.
Right. Well, think about, if you think about Fair Oaks Farm.
Yep.
Going up 65, on your way to Chicago, all of a sudden you've got this massive farm with 24,000 heads of cattle that come through there. The processing plant's outstanding. They've recovered and used their waste to turn it into gas to re-energize their plants. Agritourism, you're going to see grow up a lot too. And as we've seen it happen in Kentucky in the bourbon industry, it's going to happen here in Indiana.
Yeah, it's big news. And in Fair Oaks Farms, Northwest Indiana, attracts tens of thousands, as you know, of people each year. Another transformation, if you will, taking place in Northeast Indiana. Again, another Fort Wayne story. Electric Works, the old General Electric plant, or campus, I should say, near downtown Fort Wayne. $440 million makeover. I mean, really some aggressive and interesting plans that people up there say can be transformative for that community.
And it's a public-private partnership that's really going to matter. Remember now, the council a bipartisan council, voted for this unanimously. Mayor Henry, a Democrat, council majority Republican, voted for this the other night to move ahead on it. That'd be a massive, both in retail, commercial, residential, coming into downtown, coupled with the stadium, the expansions of, I can remember years ago, expanding the convention center was a big deal there.
Yeah.
Now look what all you've got.
Laura, as we talk about these live, work, play developments, everybody talks about them. In your view, the importance that they have, some people kind of poo-poo and say, well, it's kind of whatever, but to create amenities, to create retail living opportunities in a downtown.
Oh, it's going to draw people in, no doubt. And I think this is huge. It's a great example of politics working well for the community. And people want that kind of live, play dynamic. They want to be able to go to one place and have all of those things. I think this is fantastic.
Very good. Mike, again, you're native of Fort Wayne. There's been a lot of back and forth on the funding to get this thing put together. It's a huge project. There was a little separation in terms of funding. The Mayor Henry, it seems like he's got that figured out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of momentum going on in that market, and no shortage of ideas, right, in terms of what to fund. So the riverfront redevelopment, certainly a big initiative, but Electric Works, really exciting effort there. And the zoning approval that Robin mentioned, really important this week. And one piece of that, the development agreement, is equally as important, maybe more so, because it got them to $65 million in local funding that they really needed to have that local interest involved in there. So this thing's ready to take off.
Yeah, you mentioned the riverfront development in Fort Wayne. That is being fueled, funded in part by Regional Cities Initiative money. Regional Cities Initiative money also going into, Laura, YMCA in downtown Evansville.
Yes.
Broke ground for that this week, $5 million of that project from Regional Cities funding. And importantly, they're putting it right downtown.
Exactly. Just like we have ours on just south of downtown, and you're going to see the exact same thing for Evansville. I think this was very strategic, and it's fantastic for that downtown environment.
Another asset in the downtown
Definitely.
In Evansville. Shifting gears to the life sciences, obviously a huge industry in the state of Indiana. Cook Medical, based in Bloomington, and making a lot of moves. They announced a big sale, of course, of Cook Pharmica last year. Purchased this week, Robin, an old cigarette factory, right? In North Carolina, an old R.J. Reynolds building, vacant since 2012. Going to be the new home for Winston-Salem operations there. Employs 650 in North Carolina.
650 people that have ties to Indiana now working there. Adaptive reuse, and a strong adaptive reuse, from a tobacco plant to something in the life sciences. And I think that tells you that the way this country is moving. Also, it's in North Carolina, Tobacco Road State. And it's now looking around, it's just no longer the Research Triangle area that's booming. It's areas like Winston-Salem.
Yeah. How about having companies like Cook headquartered here? Obviously, they're going to make investments all over not just country, but all over the globe. But having that major presence and that headquarters here in Indiana.
It does so many things. First off, the quality of life of Bloomington's been improved massively because of Cook. You can go to West Baden and see the impact there that he's made, but also just the diversity and the diversity aspect of bringing people in from around the country to call Bloomington their home as ambassadors for us, I think does well for our state.
Yep. Another industry that a lot of people don't realize is big and getting bigger in Indiana, and that's the shipping business. The ports of Indiana coming off 5 of the best years, in fact, the 5 best years in the port's history. Getting a new leader, a new CEO, Rich Cooper, stepping down, is retiring. There will be a new leader coming in at the ports. Mike, as you look at this and this port story, it's quite a story.
Yeah, and I think this is a Rich Cooper legacy story here. The momentum that's happened there, the investment they brought in, the growth that they've seen, and certainly Governor Daniels, Governor Holcomb have been very supportive as well. So it's really great for our state, the initiatives we're seeing there, and I'm excited to hear that Rich is going to stay on throughout the transition as the new leader joins. So positive progress there.
Yeah, and what should mention that Vanta Koda is the new CEO, incoming CEO, coming from the Duluth Seaway Port Authority, and he'll begin his new role July 1. Mike, I want to stick with you. I know it's a client of yours, but the Indianapolis Prize was announced this week, the winner, conservation winner. And that is such a world-class type of award. It really brings a lot of good publicity and visibility, not only to the zoo, but to Indianapolis and Indiana.
It's been interesting to watch because it was a kernel of an idea a little over a decade ago, and in a short period of time, it's become regarded as the Nobel Prize of Animal Conservation. And the Indianapolis Prize, for your viewers, might be interested to know they commissioned a survey, and they asked Americans about the impact of conservation. And what they found was 84% of Americans said that they want companies to do more to invest in endangered species and ecosystems. And the 84% said if they do that, they're going to be more inclined to buy their products and services. So it's not just a nice thing to do to be involved in sustainable environment initiatives. It's important for bottom line as well.
Very good. Laura, I want to get to you on a big education story. Ball State University is taking over the Muncie Community Schools, interviewing school board candidates this week. So that process is moving forward.
It is, and we expect to have that solidified by July 1st. This is not only the first in our state, this is the first in this country. So it'll be a fascinating kind of case study to see whether it's effective, how well it works, and if this is going to be replicated in the future. Yeah, big leadership move on the part of the folks at Ball State. And we have about 20 seconds. Robin, I'll give this one to you. Andrew Luck throwing a football, dramatic. We've seen it all on Twitter this week. Is he going to play this year?
Oh, yeah, he's going to play this year. And as Andrew Luck goes, so go the Colts.
Okay. We'll write that one down. Thank you. Robin Winston, Laura Merrifield Wilson, and also Mr. Mike Marker. Thank you very much.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.